And welcome back to our continuous coverage of Big 12 football media days. Day one, we're talking Iowa State, Rick Renner, College Football Hall of Famer Gary Reasons, and Matt Campbell about to take the behind us as he takes over this job as the new coach in this league, the youngest coach in America. Boy, he's got some tools, though. He's got some things to work with up there at Ames.
Well, offensively, he's got a quarterback that's experienced, played the second half of the year. Joel Lanning, he came in, he played pretty well. He needs to get his accuracy up as a quarterback throwing the football, but he's got some running skills, and he can run the offense. They got a running back in Chris Warren. The young man did a great getting some tough yards there for the Cyclones, and I think they're going to be able to run the football, throw the ball. They've got a great wide receiver, Alan Lazard. We're going to talk to him. Essentially, they've got some pieces there to really kind of build on for Matt Campbell offensively, and I think that the defense is going to kind of find its way. So right now, I think that Matt Campbell's probably his goal is to surprise people in the league this year.
Yeah, and Warren's really interesting because he was the newcomer, the freshman of the year in the conference, and this was a game over with an assistant who was at Toledo with Coach Campbell that went to State a year early, and there he is. He's got the guy to coach that he thought he originally had back in Toledo.
Well, and actually, so Matt Campbell, he played last year in the stadium also, so they know that environment. When you have a running back that you can lean on, so with Warren as a running back, you're going to be able to give him the ball, have some confidence. Your offense is going to be able to grind out some tough yards if need be. He's got a little speedster. He can break some runs. You get out there and make an explosive play from the running back position. That will help an offense tremendously. I just think they're going to be a lot more continuity together, and I think that just a little bit of invigoration that I think that Matt Campbell's going to bring to this program. I think that it's going to be great days for the Cyclones if they can get things started in the right direction.
Yeah, and if they can get it started early, because they only have 3 home games in the first 8, but they finish with 4 of the last 5 at home in Ames, Iowa. And with that, we're going to go to the podium now and the new era of Iowa State Cyclones football, and join Matt Campbell, the new coach, as he takes the podium.
We're now joined at the dais with Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell. Coach, welcome, and your thoughts about the upcoming season.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, let me just say I'm extremely appreciative and proud to be here at Big 12 Media Day, and obviously the opportunity to represent Iowa State and Iowa State's football program. I can tell you, somebody asked me earlier, are you ready for the football season? And I can tell you it's been a whirlwind 7 months. I feel like we just got done playing a football season in a lot of ways, and I think anytime you take over a program, there's a lot that comes with that. And I'm really proud. I think we've been able to get a great head start to things and have done a lot in a short amount of time. A lot of credit there has to go to our coaching staff, and I think one of the greatest parts of our transition process for us here at Iowa State has been the ability to have so much continuity with coaches that have been with me, and we've been together over a long period of time. And I think that unity and unification of not only that coaching staff, but the people that have touched the program and been involved in our program since the day that I've gotten there have really come together to put a vision, a great foundation to be able to build off of forward. And I'm greatly appreciative of those coaches and the people that have joined our team since I've been there. Right or wrong, I think anytime that change happens and it occurs, it's difficult at times, and a lot comes with that. But I can tell you this, I think our team and our football program have started to buy into the change, and that starting point for us was spring practice. Practice 1 through 15, I saw great growth amongst our football team and our football program. Our concentration points really didn't have much to do with scheme, I'll be honest with you. A lot of it had to do with some core values that I really believe in, and attitude and effort, really understanding the ability to perfect your craft and the opportunity to come every day and a chance to get 2% better every day. And that's hard enough for us to do, let alone asking 18 to 22-year-old young men to do on a day-in, day-out process. But I really felt by the end of spring practice, our kids had made great strides to where we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. And equally, I thought our kids did what I asked them to do off the field. And I think when you start to build a program, not just a great football team, but a great football program, you're really, in our world of student-athlete experience, it's getting those young people to value off the field as much as what they do on the field. And, I asked our kids, please don't compromise off the field, because it'll really hinder your ability to reach your full potential on And I thought our kids ended the spring semester. We had the highest GPA in 12 years for an Iowa State football program, over a 2.8 GPA. We had 46 young men that had over a 3.0 GPA. And I was really proud of their attention to detail and their willingness to make those strides off the field equal to what we were doing on the field. And obviously we now move into such a critical time and have over the last couple of months for our football team. And it's the summer, you know, all coaches come up here excited about their teams, not only here but across the country, and you talk about predictions and those things. But unfortunately, it's what happens here in the next couple months, the ability to overcome adversity, stay healthy, to get better one day at a time, that defines our success. And I know myself and this coaching staff can't wait to get back on the practice field with our football team, get out and really been able to make over the summer, and to see where I think we all look forward to the challenges ahead of us. And with that said, I'll certainly open it up any questions you guys may have for myself.
Okay, we're going to start in the middle, about halfway back, and then we'll move up to the front.
Tommy Birch, Des Moines Register. Matt, you had mentioned in the hallway when you first came here, you looked at what caused so many injuries to, I guess, hurt this team over the years. What are some of the things you found, I guess, reasons?
Well, you're right. There were a lot of injuries. I think that's been an issue. And our biggest starting point was just the strength and conditioning process. I feel like we've got one of the best strength coaches in the country, a gentleman that was with me for the University of Toledo and did an incredible job. I think there's so much that goes to strength and conditioning and strength training, and I thought that was our pillar for us, that our starting point was how can we be proactive rather than reactive in that process. And obviously that's not a guarantee, and we'll see the results of that here come fall camp and obviously this football season. But that was our starting point for us.
Question in the middle.
Hey, Coach. Ian Boyd from Inside Texas. An adjustment will it be scheming to handle Big 12 offense? Is that the biggest adjustment for your staff coming from Toledo?
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. Obviously, you look at this conference and see the success of offensive football. And, you know, I think in some ways, obviously, a much as a smaller scale, I think the Mid-American Conference is very similar in terms of scoring a lot of points, you know, up-tempo offenses, trying to outscore people, getting in those shootout games, and kind of what it made its niche for as well. And so I think we come from a conference that we at least understand the schematic piece of it and certainly the intangibles. But like I said, we're now entering a much higher scale, and certainly a conference that you're doing it at a really elite level. So it'll certainly be a great challenge for us, and look forward to that challenge.
On the left side aisle.
Yeah, Matt, Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. You've spent most of your life in the state of Ohio, most of your football life virtually, of course, in Ohio. Is there any kind of adjustment when you step out of that comfort zone? And we all know about Ohio's great football tradition. What did Ohio do for you as a football player and then as a football coach? Well,
Let's talk transition for the first part of your question. Again, I was never looking to leave the University of Toledo. I had a great job. We had a great place. And I always said if we were going to leave, it had to be the right situation. And one of the great things that I found was that Iowa State, the culture around the program, the leadership of the university, those were things that fit who we were, our coaching staff, and building a program that I really believed in. So, you know, that's been a almost seamless transition a little bit, is moving to Iowa. And so that part's been great. And about the state of Ohio, and certainly growing up, number one, grew up with a father that was a head high school coach in the state of Ohio, playing high school football there for one of the winningest high school head coaches, and then having a chance to play for Larry Karras. And I think we all know the success that he had at his Mount Union program, and being the winningest college football coach of all time. It certainly laid every fabric and foundation to who I am today in terms of a football coach and understanding of the game of football. I've got a respect for the state and growing up there, and the product of football that comes out of that great state.
Brian, did you have a question? We got a question on the right side, about halfway back.
Hey, Matt, Brian Baldinger from Fox Sports. Welcome to the Big 12. I think the whole nation was sort of awakened when you beat Arkansas last year, Matt. And I was just curious, you know, for your players that are kind of getting to know you, did you ever talk about that particular game and what you did as a team collectively to beat the Razorbacks?
Yeah, obviously that was a great win for us, and I think the country found out about us, but it didn't shock anybody in our walls because I think we had built our program to play at that level and to not be afraid of anybody we played. And obviously what makes the Big 12 really unique is you play those games every week, and you have to play those opponents week in and week out. But we haven't talked about with our team, but I think it's the mentality and the understanding and the belief that you come into the walls program with, and I do think we have to create that mentality at Iowa State, and we have to continue to understand that every time we step on the field we expect to win. And you probably say that in this room and people may chuckle, but the reality of it is that's where we're going and that's what we're building, and we had the ability to do that at the University of Toledo with our young men, and a lot of credit there goes to our kids. We had great players and great young men that embodied that, and we're so fortunate as we've come into Iowa State to character young men that I think want to be successful and know what it takes to be successful.
Questions for Coach? You're not going to let him off that easy, are you? We got a question in the back on the left-hand side.
Hey, Coach. Championship game coming into the Big 12. Sorry, Jenny Carlson at the Oklahoman. Big 12 championship game coming in a year, format, that sort of thing. Do you have any thoughts on what you'd like to see in terms of how teams feed into that?
Well, I'll say this. Being the new guy and not getting an opportunity to really go through the schedule and certainly the Big 12 for the first time, it's probably unfair to have any definite answer to that. What I can say is coming from a conference that did play in a championship football, have a championship football game to play in, the opportunity to keep teams relevant, the opportunity to fight all the way till the end of the season for an opportunity to play in a game, I think that's huge, and it's going to be really unique and really interesting to see how that process looks in the Big 12 and how we go there. But I do think it's got a chance to be a great asset to this conference.
Question on the aisle left.
Hey, Matt. Brian Davis from the Austin American Statesman. College administrators they don't seem to be afraid anymore to hire coaches under 40, which is good for people like yourself and the profession, I'm sure. But with age on your side as a positive factor that you probably sell to recruits, how do you balance trying to be hip and cool and them versus putting the hammer down as their head coach and doing it at a place that the previous coach had a ton of energy and it still didn't work out for him? Sure.
Well, again, the age piece, I said this in my introductory press conference at the University of Toledo when I was 31, and I said age is a number. And it really is. It's about experience, and it's about the opportunity of who you learned under and the people that you've learned under. I think it really builds who we all are as coaches, and I think every head coach that comes up here today is a product of who they learned the game of football under and the people that they were around. And for me, that's where I'm extremely blessed to be a son of a head high school football coach, to have a great high school coach, have great mentors in this profession growing up. And that's a unique saying, hip and cool. I think if people knew me, I'm probably not real hip and cool, but I am the young guy. But I appreciate you saying that. Hopefully my wife hears this. But I think the reality for me is you have to be who you are, though. And I think that's maybe the biggest thing I've learned at a young age is I can't try to be somebody else. I have to be me. I have to do it my way, how I believe it can be done, and surround myself with people that have the same vision that I do to continue that course. So I think it's a great question, but that'd certainly be my response to that.
We've got a question on the rear left.
Myron Patton, Fox 25, Oklahoma City. How much does it help you transition? You got a young man in Mike Warren at running back.
Yeah.
And do you anticipate recruiting the state of Oklahoma quite a bit? You've got a kid from Norman committed to you right now who's a senior.
Sure. First of all, Michael Warren, it's great to come into a football program and have a young man that's had the success that Michael has, especially early on in his career. He's a tremendous talent. My background with Michael is I recruited the heck out of him. At one point, he was this close to committing to me at the University of Toledo. So I was fired up to see that face in the Iowa State team meeting room when I got the job at Iowa State. And, you know, Michael's a tremendous talent. I still think he's got a lot of growth in his game and continue to get even better as his career continues to go. And, you know, the state of Oklahoma will certainly be an area for us that we focus on in terms of recruiting, just because I think throughout the state we've already identified that there's extremely talented young people and young men that can really have a great impact in our program. So that'll be an area that we certainly concentrate on.
Another question on the rear.
Hi there, Will Baser of Horn Sports. On the topic of recruiting out of state, how do you feel about satellite camps now that you're outside of your bread and butter of Ohio? How are you going to go about satellite camps, and how do you feel on the entire topic and how it's going about right now?
Well, I think satellite camps are really interesting. I think obviously there's a disconnect in some ways with where we're at, but I think as you see it, there's certainly great benefit in terms of whether it's Iowa State or whomever going across the country and getting young men the opportunity to earn a scholarship at one of these camps or evaluate young people. I can also understand the value of where we're at right now. It seems to be a little bit out of control in a lot of different ways. So I think there's a happy somewhere in there. But I think we always have to remember that these rules can't be put in place. It's got to still be about the young men and their families, these 16, 17-year-old prospects that are trying to, whether it's get a scholarship by us or whoever it may be, but giving them the best opportunity to be successful. And I think that's where we get skewed somewhere sometimes down the line is you know, we think about us as the coaches, but ultimately it's got to be about these young people and their families because they're the consumer in this whole thing. So we've got varied views on it, different views on it, but I think I'm certainly pro student athlete and pro opportunity for them to be successful and get as much exposure as they can.
Front left.
Yeah, Matt Kirk Bowles from the Austin American Statesman. Matt, how did you view the pass-happy Big 12 from afar, and how does that mesh with your offense philosophy and what you want to do?
Well, that's a great question. I think from afar, I was always consistently impressed with the skill and the ability of the people and the young people within the Big 12. The players, the quarterback play, the skill play. It's been extremely impressive to watch from a distance. And again, I always thought there was a lot of parallels, at least with the high scoring, how games ended up as to what we were playing in. But on a smaller scale in the Mid-American Conference, I think a lot of similar games and outcomes. Now, to what we want to do is we have to define who we are. What are we? What's our program? And just because it's a high-scoring, pass-happy league, that doesn't always mean that we have to be that. We have to build our program around what we are, what our university stands for, what the state of Iowa stands for, what our program should look like and feel like. And you know that again, we have to be us. We can't try to be somebody else. So, you know, we're going to work really hard at that. And our starting point, I don't know if we'll be able to be that right away, but our starting point will revolve around our players. You know, find out what our players do really well, what gives us the best chance to be successful, and then make sure we do a great job of aiding that as coaches early on.
Question on the left rear.
Hey, Coach, a year ago, Iowa State did some expansion that opened on the stadium. It seems like every year, you know, a third or fourth of the schools in the league have something going on with expansion of facilities. What's your thought on the importance, you know, why expansion or improvements are important? Is it about the fan base, recruiting, all of the above? Just sort of what have been your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think coming in, that's certainly been my first impression even of what we've seen here at Iowa State from the day I've got there. Again, we played there 2 years ago, and we come this year as soon as we got the job, and the end zone part of the stadium is done. And I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it's certainly recruiting today. It's an arms race a lot of ways in college football. especially when you're talking Power 5 football today. I think the energy that it's put into the fan base, certainly that area, that section for Iowa State has been incredible. It's sold out in a matter of days, and hard to get a ticket there right now. And so I think it's the ability and also the vision of the leadership team on everybody's campus to how can we enhance the student athlete experience, but how can we also continue to empower our fan base and excite our fan base with what we have the ability to surround and make their experience exceptional as well. So I think it's a continuum that we're on, and it's probably going to continue for a long time in college athletics.
Question on the left.
Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. Matt, I think I read when you got hired that you'd name and names a few years ago, and you told the people that I think you told your wife you could envision this as a place you've been. What was it about that trip that sort of piqued your interest in Iowa State?
It's funny. We played that game. It was a game that was played in late October. So it was a non-conference game. They'd already played Big 12 games. We'd already played conference games, and we had stayed about 15, 20 miles away. And I'll be honest with you, at University of Toledo, we played at some great environments. We played at Ohio State, and we played down at the Swamp, and we played at some great places. And I don't know if I had much knowledge of Iowa State was or its fan base was prior to that football game. But, as we came in that day, and I'm the young guy, I don't like to sit in the hotel too long, so I'd rather get to the stadium and get out, throw the football, and be around our guys. And, we got there early, and just the passion, the energy, the environment, I was blown away by that experience there in Ames. And I think if you've been there and people have seen it, it's a special fan base. It's a special group of people, and the passion and energy and the pride that they have for their university is exceptional. And I left there that day, getting to Jack Trice Stadium and watching and feeling that environment throughout that game. And I did call home to my wife. I said, this is a really special place. It's unique. It's got a great setting, and something special could really happen here. And, that was kind of the end of our conversation until we fast forward 2 years later, and, the craziness of our season coming to an end. And, this was the one school that really piqued my interest because of that experience. But it was that experience that certainly helped.
Any last question for Coach? Okay, Coach, thank you very much. Best of luck for the season.
Thank you very much.
That's Matt Campbell, the youngest coach in America, taking over Iowa State. If you're